So we have a couple questions that people were. I got an answer for this guy right here. He said, "Did Mr. Solomon start his career based on XCOM?" He's actually said
this is a great story. So Jake played the original XCOM game back in high school, and he was a huge fan of that original game. And that was actually the reason he went to the university to become a computer science major. And so so you can honestly say that the lead designer of XCOM is the lead designer of XCOM because of XCOM.
Yeah,
that's pretty recursive.
Yes. He got into it completely because of XCOM, and I would say the same thing for me. It was about equal Civ and XCOM. Those are the reasons I wanted to be in this industry.
Yeah.
I love the strategy games. So let's ask some of these questions that have been coming in. So one of the earliest questions I saw this morning, right after we talked, a guy wanted to know if soldier panicking is in XCOM Enemy Unknown.
Yes, it absolutely is. And panicking creates all of those really amazing evolved situations that you remember from the original one. So you have some rookie freaks out, sprays fire everywhere. Sometimes that's going to result in actually killing something useful. Sometimes that rookie is going to become less useful. And actually, one of the biggest reasons to get your soldiers some field experience is so that they level up, their will stat sort of goes up a little bit. So when they're in the field and somebody shoots a muton and doesn't kill it, the muton does this chest thump thing, they don't freak out right away. Rookies tend not to react really well to mutons chest thumping. They lack the intestinal fortitude.
Yeah. In the bit that I've played, the panicking is you really got to manage that well. If you know that mutons are coming, don't put the rookies up front.
You can't manage panic. And XCOM is one of those games where you're generally not always in a situation where you can send in exactly the people you want. Sometimes you're getting field guys. You're fielding guys who don't have the necessary experience, and you're just kind of hoping that they live long enough to get the skills that they need.
The number of times in my play where I've looked at how long my soldiers need to recover, and I'm crossing my fingers. Don't see a UFO in the next 2 days. Don't see a UFO. And then one day in, and I go, oh no, this is going to be bad.
Yeah, my last playthrough, I had my two best veterans were laid up in the hospital, and a terror mission came up one day before they were due out, and it was sad. Let's have a moment of silence for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Another question that was coming up was. Someone wanted to know if the aliens move around the map before you spot them, before they've been discovered.
Oh yeah. There's alien patrols on a lot of the maps. So the maps that we do have, they have randomized entry points for the aliens as well too, and so you can have a pack of aliens moving around. That creates a fair amount of tension because when you're not running into a group of alien after a few turns, sometimes your guys will hear it. Maybe on 2 successive turns, and you can sort of get a sense for where that patrol might be going through. And knowing the whole time that as you're shooting and you're kicking down doors and you're making noise, the aliens are tracking you as well. And so, and when they come skittering out of that dark corner, that's one of those classic XCOM moments.
I hate it when they skitter. That usually means that it's a chrysalid. I don't like skitters.
Mutons don't skitter, they thump.
Yeah, that's, and that's not altogether better. Although, I'd rather face a muton than a chrysalid overall. I think
no way. No.
You really?
No. The new mutons, the way they work together, the fact that they can blood crawl and buff each other up.
We're going to go... Oh, you know what? A guy in chat was asking about... He wanted a little more details about the room bonuses for layout. We've talked about how in the ant farm you can... you take it away. You know what I'm talking about. You can lay out the rooms, and they get special benefits for being laid out in a particular way. Is that how it works?
So the question was about structuring your base in XCOM, because that's a major part of the strategy game, is managing how your base is constructed. So because you have the ability to build the modules the way you want, we wanted to sort of be able to reward players who can manage the situation with their base. This generally requires better play than I have, but if you build 2 power modules adjacent to each other, then you get some additional power for that, and you need power in order to run the different component parts of your base. Satellite uplinks, when they're built next to each other, give you sort of an additional bandwidth capacity, so you can have additional satellites that you're launched and monitoring. And then let's see, so workshops. You build workshops next to each other, you actually get a refund on the projects that you build. That's very, very useful, especially later on in the game where you're relying very heavily on equipment XCOM's built, or equipment you have to recover in the field. And it's tough to recover stuff, so the ability to get some of those scarcer resources back is really valuable too. Labs get a bonus. When they're next to each other, your scientists are actually slightly more productive. Now, again, this sounds very easy. It sounds like, okay, well, I'm going to totally build all my labs here, and I'm going to build my production.
Oh, so I got to use this. All right, guys, welcome back to the Hard Rock Hotel. I don't know why I'm welcoming you. This has been a long day, and I'm completely jumbling up what I said. You were actually already here and talking to Ronnie and Sasha, and now I'm here with Pete Murray once again of Firaxis, and you guys have been asking your XCOM questions all day long. I'm going to ask him a few of them now, so we can get you some of those answers. There's a lot of good questions. David sent them all to me, and I'm going to let you guys know right up front. We're not going to get to all of the questions, but I've got a lot more here that are good. I'm going to be talking to Pete tomorrow morning as well, where you're going to see some new footage during our talk at the same time. So let's get started with a couple things. So that answers one of the questions, which is, are we going to show more footage? And so this was a good one. Let's see. He said, can the support soldier just spec to be a medic, or are there other specializations? And if so, what are some of them?
So anybody can use a med kit. The support class is the class that makes the most use of the med kit. The other way you can build out your support soldiers as this general fire support specialist. Maybe not somebody who's going to do the most damage on your team, but somebody who has a lot of abilities that help out everybody else. Somebody who's got his own version of suppression, somebody who's going to be able to boost the use of their smoke grenades and things like that. Ends up being this sort of jack-of-all-trades character who you don't realize how much of an importance they are playing in your tactical role until you've actually got them there. It's something you're going to want to check out when you're playing XCOM.
Alrighty, and so here is we got another one. Oh, will there be unmanned ground vehicles?
Yes, absolutely. The Shiv, the super heavy infantry vehicle. This is a small unmanned tank. It's controlled presumably by somebody back at the XCOM HQ. It's mounted with a heavy weapon. It's a little more accurate than a rookie. Puts out a lot of firepower, but it does take up one of your squad slots. And whereas a rookie is going to get better over time, a Shiv is awesome and can be upgraded, but it may never be as good as your highly promoted colonel or somebody like that.
So you're saying we can't take 4 or 5, 6 Shivs and just never use soldiers? We'd save some lives.
I've never used that many Shivs. I have. Expensive. They're really expensive for one. I bring a few every once in a while, but I generally like bringing my rookies up. They end up being worth their weight.
All right. Let's see. I'm looking through here. Someone wants you to talk more about Shivs. Is there any? Do you cover? We just did talk a bunch about Shivs here. Let's see. I know Pete doesn't have much time here because you've got to get running somewhere. So, like I said, we're going to be talking to Pete more in the morning. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. So, you mentioned that the development of this game was started like 4 years ago, almost 4 years.
Just about 4 years.
Just about 4 years ago. So, when you guys set off on this, when you finally told Jake, yes, you can remake XCOM, were you expecting it to be this so long, or how's that developed over time?
Well, I think you'll find, first of all, that game development takes a lot longer than people expect. There's a lot that goes on. With XCOM, I guess it's not that it took 4 years long, it's that this is where the game is ready. The game, 2K was really great in that they gave us the time to develop a game that was going to be a game that lived up to the heritage of the original XCOM game, a game that was going to be a lot of fun to play. And I think the fact that it took 4 years, we hope that you guys get to see the work that went into that. Not only the work that our artists put in creating the environments and the characters, the camera angles and things like that, but the gameplay as well, too. The things that we tried to do to sort of bring the XCOM gameplay forward as well.
All right. Well, again, thank you for answering some of our XCOM questions. I'm sure people are going to be sending in even more. We're going to be gathering those. We still have 2 more full days at Comic-Con here. We're going to be answering more of your questions.
Pete Murray, welcome back. Welcome back to our live broadcast stage here.
Thanks for having me back.
It was fun. For those of you that weren't watching yesterday, we talked to Pete yesterday twice, actually. Got some of your questions. These questions are all sourced from the chat room here and as well as on Twitter. So you guys need to, throughout the day, ask your XCOM questions. You can either tweet it to us at 2K Games using the hashtag 2K at SDCC, as well as if you ask it in the chat, write XCOM question, just so Tom in the back can find it easier compared to the rest of the chat there. And we're writing them all down, and we're asking a lot of them of Pete.
Before we get started, we have to set the record straight. So
Okay.
yesterday you showed off the awesome sketch from Gabe at Penny Arcade.
That's right.
Of Tycho.
In fact, we're giving that away today. In fact, while you're talking about it, I'll get it out. So
Okay,
people can
no,
see it.
actually,
No, I can't.
Greg is dead to me while he talks about giving away this poster because I want it that badly. But yesterday,
That's true.
Greg said, "Oh, look, those sectoids are unarmed," completely forgetting.
One of them's going like this.
No, yeah, but they are psychic aliens. He might have been preparing his psychic abilities. It's this sort of lack of preparedness that I think would seriously jeopardize your chances in the field. Now,
So what you're
I
saying
like
is
you
Tycho
very much.
would survive the alien invasion.
He would do well.
And
He would do well.
I'd be doomed.
You might have a difficult time.
I'd be like that alien's raising his hands. Don't
and
shoot him. He's giving up.
You have to shoot him. You have to be sure. You've got to be sure. I'm only telling you this because I like you a lot. I want to see you do well in XCOM. I want to see you be able to defeat them, but man, no mercy. They have no mercy on Earth. We have no mercy against them.
All right. So there you go. Now you have the
Alien
secret
survival
insider
tips.
tips.
All right,
to,
there you go.
To survive XCOM. So we're going to get to some of these questions that people have asked yesterday. So let's start with a fun one here, which is someone is asking: Is there any armor that hovers in the game?
Absolutely. There was flight armor in the original XCOM. We have what we call the Archangel armor. It does hover. It does let you move up height levels. That's really useful for popping up to a roof of a building and surprising somebody who might be trying to take a shot at you up there. It takes you beyond the reach of aliens that are big melee specialists like the Berserker or the Chrysalid, and sometimes just
Anything that gets you away from chrysalids is a
anything
good
that gets
thing.
you away from chrysalids is a good thing. So definitely something you're going to want to check out. But it is not a trivial investment. It takes alien alloys. I believe it takes some Illyrium as well. You need to be, when you're making those decisions about building that, you're definitely thinking about projects you're going to be foregoing because of that, and it's going to take your engineers some time to crank that out.
So you're not just going to equip your entire squad with Archangel armor.
I've never done that. I mean, I'm sure I'd say, "Oh no, you'll never do that," and somebody will immediately go and do that. But
That's always the
yeah,
case.
definitely,
Someone will prove us wrong if we say you can't do it.
absolutely.
All right. Asking more about some kinds of the aliens. Someone is asking if there are elite aliens in XCOM, like a standard sectoid soldier and then a more powerful one.
There are standard sectoids. The basic sectoid is one of the first aliens you encounter in the game, and there's also the sectoid commander, who's a pretty nasty alien as well too.
That's right, I've seen him in our demo.
He's
over
in our
here.
demo, but let me tell you, the first time you run across him, it's certainly a surprise when he starts mind controlling your guys. If you're a veteran of the original game, that's always something that's in the back of your mind. You're like, okay, I know sectoids have this chance, but it's different when it's your soldier who's suddenly taken over and shooting back at you. And at that point, you start going, what are my non-lethal options against this guy? And the answer is kill the sectoid commander.
All right. So speaking of psionic powers, someone wanted to know if do psionic powers require line of sight?
I believe they do, yes. So there's no endlessly pinging around the battlefield. I believe the psychic trooper has to be able to see the target he's going to mind control or hit or whatever.
All right, there you go. Nice, simple answer. So someone is saying that a lot of the action in the footage that they've seen seems to be like little 5 to 10 second cutscenes and such, and they're wondering how much of the game will be like. Are those scripted sequences, or is it a randomized campaign like it was in the original XCOM?
Yeah, the main campaign is absolutely randomized. That alien invasion happens on its own timetable, so regardless of how well you're doing, so you can fall behind that invasion and not be able to catch up. That's sort of a spiral that if you played the original game, you're familiar with. To answer the question, the little 5 to 10 second cutscenes, those cinematic cameras are part of the game. That's not. We sort of can randomly determine when they occur. You can get them when you do things like pull off a cool shot, or in bad situations like when an alien, cool shots your guys, and for fun stuff too, like kicking down a door and running through it. And that's just part of creating that sense of being involved in the action in the game. We do have cutscenes for some of the key events in the game. The first time you encounter a Terra mission, that's a big event in the game, and we want to be able to sort of call that to your attention. So yeah, you'll have a mix of both sort of these dynamically generated cinematic moments, and then definitely some main highlight cinematics as well too.
All right, that sounds good. All right, gonna go down the list here. Here we go from another fellow in the chat. He says, "Do you address how the alien containment, allows you to interrogate aliens?"
Thoroughly is how it does it. You're the commander of XCOM. You're not the guy responsible for going down and interrogating the aliens. You pretty much leave that up to the science team. So the science team goes down. They turn on the interrogation panel, and it starts to go, and a couple days later they come back with a report, which is very handy to have, but you don't go through some sort of Mass Effect style conversation wheel.
Gotcha. And one thing I noticed when I was playing it that I really like is whenever you have these science things, you get this really cool like long text. So for those of you that like really want to read more details about what they went into, you get this really cool like kind of explanation of like here's how it worked and what we were able to do.
Definitely, definitely, and that's part of creating the setting for XCOM, and we wanted to make sure that was included as well too. There's also. Speaking on the subject of interrogations, one of the continent bonuses for stationing your base is for South America. Your interrogations and your autopsies are completed instantly, which is really, really handy for some key moments in the game. And again, that's part of the key decisions you'll be making in XCOM. You know, where you station your base, that's one of the first ones you make that has major strategic implications. And the cool part is all of these continent bonuses have these really cool effects like that. And so it's really like, which of these alternatives do I think is
really
the coolest?
Just you're setting up from the beginning to kind of have a different strategy than perhaps
Absolutely.
the last time you played.
Absolutely.
That's the thing that I think so many people love about XCOM is you can play it over and over again and just be a different game each time, different strategy.
Different soldiers that you're bringing, different guys who are in the hospital, different aliens you encounter on the battlefield at different times. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Someone's asking about the progression of story for characters. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're not following one main character through the game, which is good because in XCOM your soldiers can die permanently, and if we had one main character and you lost him on the third mission, that would make for a pretty short game. When people talk about XCOM and the moments that really made XCOM for that, a lot of that is I had this character who I got and I wasn't sure how I felt about him, but then, you know, one day I noticed he was lasting through these missions and suddenly he's ranked up there and he's a colonel and now he's my veteran guy, and way back at the beginning I didn't think he was going to make it. That emergence of the story that takes place in your head about how you feel about, you know, Otto Zander or somebody, that is sort of always been a key to XCOM, and so we wanted to make sure that we had that as well too.
Yeah, it's always a surprise when I'm like, all right, I'm going to bring one rookie, and his job, I'm not going to tell him, but his job is actually just a little bit of cannon fodder. Going to run him up to the front.
Your job is to open doors and look.
And then
he
ends up being colonel later, and I'm like, that guy should never have doubted him.
Yeah,
cool.
I've had that happen. You know, somebody you bring on a mission just to get him some field time, and he ends up saving the day with like a well-timed grenade or something like that. It's classic XCOM right there.
Someone wanted to know about, are there different ship types like in the original game?
Absolutely. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but there are there. So the scouts you'll recognize. There are some larger ships as well. Some of these are sort of key to the plot of the game. How mysterious. He's not completely answering the question.
So there are, but he's not going to tell us. Let's see. In the original games, the object was to defeat the aliens on one final mission, and so this leads into his question about, are there side quests and missions, not including terror missions, which they already
Sometimes the Funding Council will come to you and they'll say, for example, we want you to check out this situation, we want you to go out and test this. Those Funding Council missions are completely optional, but they're rewarded, and those rewards are valuable resources. And, maybe you're in a situation where you're like, gosh, I'd love to have 8 more scientists.
All your veterans are in the hospital.
Yeah, but I'm down to like Epsilon Squad. I'm putting guys in the field who are basically armed with yesterday's leftovers. Or, you got some weird combination. Like, I've got my 3rd string support soldier and my main heavy and a bunch of rookies. And I don't know how I would go about that. Passing up those Funding Council missions is entirely possible, but It's tough. It's tough. You're always looking at that going, I can make that happen. I can make that happen for these guys.
All right. Another one. Someone wanted to know, are there maps that include large indoor portions that result in like house-to-house fighting and such?
Yeah, a lot of the maps have inside spaces and outside spaces in them, and so getting into position by windows and doors and not running across big open spanses makes a big difference. I can think of one map in particular that there's 2 commercial buildings next to each other, and I remember the first time I played that map, there was a pod of aliens up in there, and I wasn't sure. I didn't realize that pod was in that second building. Sent a team around to try to flank the aliens. Found myself flanked myself. So that was pretty scary.
You never want that to happen. All right, that's all the. I'm seeing we got to move on to our next segment here. That's all the questions we got for now. Keep sending your questions in the chat, XCOM question, your question here, or tweet to us with the hashtag that you see at the top of the broadcast up there where it says hashtag 2K at SDCCs. Look at it. See? You see the hashtag? It's pretty good. So, I'm here with Pete Murray once again from Firaxis.
How are you guys doing?
Pete Murray works at Firaxis on XCOM Enemy Unknown, and so he is the man to talk to when we have questions about XCOM.
These are really great questions. Keep sending them in. We're happy to answer them as best we can.
Yes, so again, that means put XCOM question, then your question into the chat. Tom's gathering them all in the back, and he's sending them to me. You can also tweet your questions to us. Use the 2K at SDCC hashtag above. So, got some good questions for you here. Someone wants to know is, can you take over alien technologies? Real simple.
Yes, absolutely. Taking over alien technology is key. So at the beginning of XCOM, you've got access to Earth's best technology, but it's really not enough. You know, even the most basic sectoid's got a plasma pistol that does as much or possibly more damage than the assault rifle your soldiers are packing. So you really need that technology. You need to investigate it. You need to learn how to build it yourself. And that's going to give you the edge as you're fighting the aliens.
And as a follow-up to that, someone else, Mr. Charlie Mayhem, wanted to know, do you have to use alien technology to progress through the game?
I guess you don't have to, but it really does help. I mean, technology is one of those things that's going to give you the edge in fighting the aliens. I guess it's possible you're going to have soldiers that are, badass enough to be able to take down the aliens, but that's really going to be kind of a tough road to hoe. So I can remember I was on a mission. I had not spent a lot of time investigating new tech for my troops. I finally came to this one tower mission. I lost 4 of my 6 best soldiers because they still had basic tech. That's a hard way to go through the game because those veterans are really the ones who are going to carry you through and keep getting you the successes you need.
I'm sure a week after release, someone will show us that they were able to beat the game with just the assault rifles. But man, that would be an amazing feat.
If you do that, that's awesome, and I'd take off my hat to you.
Yes, it'll be. I'm sure people will have their own challenges they'll come up with of only doing a particular tech or something or other. So someone wants to know if you can increase the effectiveness of traditional weapons or weapons you've researched. They gave some examples like bigger magazines.
So one of the modules you can develop for XCOM headquarters is called the Armory, and that sort of is used to increase the effectiveness of your equipment. I don't want to go too much into detail on that. Right now where we are in development is sort of this balance and polish phase, and it's possible that I will give you an answer and Jake will have changed it back at the office, and then you will not see what I've just told you, and then you'll be upset, and I'll be upset because I upset you. So I don't want to do that to you.
Pete's a very sensitive guy. He doesn't like upsetting people. Yeah, he's
okay.
He lives to please. Someone wanted to know. Let's see. Do the maps randomly generate?
So the maps don't randomly generate, but they can't. We have a huge map pool, a huge pool of pre-created maps. Some of them are key to particular events in the game, but we even have variants in those. And within the map itself, we have multiple spawn points. A given map may occur at different points within the campaign itself. So, for example, a map like River Valley, which we will show you right after this, might occur for one player. It might happen earlier on in the game. For another player, it might happen towards the end. And so you're seeing different ships on it. You're seeing different aliens on it. So it'll be a new experience. So it really does feel like quite a variety of maps, and you can play through the game twice and never experience the same map. So there's quite a variety there.
All right. Mr. Asheram asks, in the footage we've seen so far, to him, he thought the maps looked linear. Can you speak to the kind of
Okay, the maps have been designed, and we've tried to play them for gameplay. Now, in some of the demos that we've shown, the space is a little bit constrained because we're trying to show off a variety of the game in a given period of time. And so that location is maybe less indicative of a given map, but it does give us the opportunity to show off a lot about the game itself in that way. The maps... There's a whole, oh my god, I wish we had one of the level designers here. I could sit you down with them and they could talk about everything, all the decisions that go into designing a play space. But you want to have a play space that has a lot of different possibilities within it itself. They don't feel like long hallways with cover in them to me.
No.
And then with the different spawn points of them and the different approach points, Yeah, there's lots of different ways it can go.
And man, if you play the same map one time before you have like Archangel armor, or let's say even before you encounter any floaters, it's going to feel completely different when things are flying.
Absolutely.
Any tactics you thought and it feels like a completely different map.
Yeah,
and
the floater is a great example of an alien that can completely wreck your plans. So they've got this ability called Boost. When they use it, they basically pop up off the screen and then can drop down pretty much anywhere on the map. And that really puts them in a position where they can flank soldiers, especially if you've got like a sniper who might be off on a high position, sort of commanding a corner of the map. You're not used to having guys pop up on his rear without knowing about that ahead of time. And so the floater is really one of those aliens that just plays hell with your plans. It's great.
All right, let's see. We've got. People have been asking about the Shiv a lot. This guy wants to know what kind of different attachments can you give the Shiv. Now, we don't want to give away the farm. Is there
big guns?
Yeah, big guns.
Big guns.
So, but yes, there are some different attachments. But he's not gonna.
We had a diplomacy option that snapped onto the Shiv at one point, and it attempted to engage in diplomatic relations, and we found that less interesting than a really big machine gun.
All right. So, is the plasma weapons that we've shown in a few of our demos the final weapon level you can have? Are they the most powerful weapons?
Yeah, just like the original XCOM, plasma technology is the best that XCOM can get at this point. So when you're packing the big green guns, that feels pretty cool.
All right. And are there different types of alien ships that will raid on the ground? He says it was his favorite part of the game.
Yeah, you will definitely experience all kinds of alien ships. Some of them are pretty straightforward. The small scout, for example, that's a pretty easy ship to figure out. Some of them are a little more complex. Some of them are pretty big. So I think you'll enjoy. Maybe enjoy is the wrong word. I think you'll find them to be quite an interesting challenge when you get a chance to play
experience
up against
them. It is scary the first time you encounter a downed alien UFO that is a different layout than than the first ones you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you aren't familiar with the layout and you're not sure what to expect, that tension that's really key to XCOM. You certainly feel that in spades.
All right. So thanks for answering even more questions for us today. I know we've got people lined up out the door here to come see this demo.
So we're going to turn our room around. We're going to get our demo ready to go.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I am here again in our XCOM mission control room at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I'm back with Pete Murray.
How you doing, guys?
Those of you that have been watching for the past several days, you know that we have talked to Pete several times. And we are taking your guys' questions from the chat room here and from Twitter and posing them to him so that you can learn more about XCOM Enemy Unknown. There are a lot of guys out there with a lot of questions.
Really great questions, too, so keep them coming in.
Yeah, definitely keep them coming in. I know we just got started, so people are flowing in, so we're not getting a ton of questions in the chat right this second. So we're going to go over a couple questions here and put your questions in chat right now. We might be able to get to them, but we're definitely compiling them for one more talk with Pete at the end of the day. So here was one. The guy wanted to know how many research avenues are there, and are you going to bring out more in the future? I'm not sure by the latter half of that he means like adding more to the game, but let's just take it away, Pete.
All right, let's talk about the research within the game itself. So there's different research projects you can pursue in the course of a game of XCOM. It doesn't flow very linearly necessarily, but as things happen in the game, as you come across new alien types, kill them, and drag their corpses back to the lab, you'll find new things you can investigate. As your scientists research new stuff, that'll open up other possibilities as well. So it's this combination of sort of this dynamically generated research opportunity based on what your soldiers are finding, as well as sort of a little bit more of a progression when your scientists are working in the lab. So it's sort of a mix of both. There are lots of research avenues, and I've never had a playthrough where I've been able to get through everything in the game. I know Jake Solomon, who's our lead designer, hasn't been able to get through all the research in the game. You really have to focus on science if you want to do that, and that often comes at the expense of very, very necessary parts of the operation, especially on the engineering side. So you have to evaluate things very, very carefully.
If you go all science, but then you don't have engineers to manufacture anything you're researching, that may not work out so well.
In those kinds of cases, you're relying very heavily on, for example, recovering artifacts from the field. So then you have to do a lot of stunning aliens in order to recover their weapons intact, and that's a really risky proposition. You end up burning through a lot of assault soldiers along that way.
Just give your stun gun to the rookies.
A rookie is not always a valuable contributor to XCOM. You know, we recognize the potential that they represent for XCOM's future, and we look forward to staff development possibilities on the battlefield.
All right. Another question we had from Mr. Gothhammer is the AI for each country different?
So at the beginning of the game, one of the first decisions you make in XCOM is where to situate your main base, and that's what continent you're going to base it on. Each one of those continents has a different bonus that it provides XCOM as an organization. North America's makes it easier to purchase and maintain aircraft. For South America, your interrogations and your autopsies complete instantly. Africa gets a resource bonus monthly, and those really sort of set the stage for how you're going to play the game.
And you didn't mention my favorite one.
Which one's your favorite one?
I don't know if you're revealing all of them. My favorite one is the one that includes Japan.
So Asia, with the Officer Candidacy
I couldn't
School.
remember if it was just...
The Officer Training School projects are cheaper to do there. And the OTS is really valuable because that's where you're going to go and you're going to start projects that do things like increase your squad size. So, you know, in that case, you're directly investing in the capabilities of your team. That's very useful as well, too. And again, you know, the next time you play it, you might say, wow, I really couldn't quite decide whether I was going to go Asia or Europe this time. Maybe I'm going to go Europe this time because I went with Asia last time.
All right, and we have one that someone had just mentioned in the chat earlier, which was, you covered this yesterday, but we can go over it again. He asked how many maps are in the game?
Many. Without going into an exact count, our target has been to be able to play through the game twice and never see the same map. Some of the key maps are very similar because they're necessary for a variety of reasons. Yeah, you should be able to play through the maps quite a bit before they start to get familiar. And even then, within a map itself, we can vary things like the entry points for your soldiers and the spawn points for the aliens. And I'll tell you, I've been on maps that I know I've played before, but when I come into it from a new angle, it really does feel like a new map.
Here's one that someone just asked. They want to know how much character customization is there. They were wondering if can you change the looks and the names, or is it just armor and weapons?
Absolutely, you can change the soldiers' names. That's easy enough to do. You can also change their appearance. We've got a bunch of different settings that you can go through for that, and you can change their nickname as well too.
I love the nickname feature. I never give them a nickname. Because I like when they earn a nickname. That's my favorite part.
That's actually part of the game. When your soldier reaches the rank of sergeant, they automatically get a nickname. That's sort of the rest of the team sort of gives them a name to go for it, and you really do start to identify them by that nickname after a while. And it's a little bit like G.I. Joe when you used to recognize the soldiers by their code names, and it does have kind of a cool effect. So, for example, in the campaign I'm playing right now, I named my best medic after Josh Morton, who's here driving the demo today. But Josh's nickname is Vita. So I keep having to stop myself here at the demo and going, driving our demo today is Vita Morton, who's my best medic. Some people, they're okay with that, though.
All right, we've got one more question came in. This is a good one. How long approximately did it take from start to finish to develop and design? Oh, finish is not quite there yet.
We're not finished. It's but we've been working on the game for about 4 years now. That was starting with the first guys who were coming off of Civilization Revolution. As that project finished, sitting down and prototyping early versions of the game. And now we got a team of people back at Firaxis madly squashing bugs and putting the finishing touches on things.
Hello, welcome to the Hard Rock Hotel here in San Diego. I am again here with Pete Murray to answer more of your XCOM Enemy Unknown questions. People have been sending them into the chat since this morning, since our last talk, actually. And we've got a few of them compiled here, and we're going to get some of them answered for you guys.
Awesome.
All right, first up is from Charlie Mayhem. He wants to know, how many weapons are planned for release?
Lots and lots of weapons planned for the release of the game. Some of them we're going to actually keep as a secret for you because there's always fun to discover things in the game itself. Plasma weapons are pretty much near the high end of what you're going to find. There's laser weapon technology that you'll access. Your soldiers have access to basically Earth's best conventional equipment at the beginning of the game, but you're going to find that that's often not going to be enough. You're just going to need something that's going to give you a little bit more of an edge.
All right. Zool Snes, who he won a couple of our giveaways this weekend, wants to know, How many people have worked on the game altogether?
Gosh,
That is a hard
that's
question to
really,
answer.
That's a really tough question. When you add in all the people who've helped with all the different aspects of the game, from not just creation but getting it out into the world, that's going to run over into the hundreds. We've had a pretty the team working at Firaxis is varied in size over time. I'd say we probably have close to 100 people actively involved in the development of the game right now, and that's making code, making assets, coming to shows and talking about it, things like that. So yeah, big team, but it's a big game. I mean, when you think about everything that's in XCOM, that's a game with a lot of moving parts, so it takes a big team to work on that too.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned before, this game has been in development for 4 years, or just about 4 years now, and so that's it's a long time, a very long time, and a lot of people end up working on it, even if they only work on it for a short period of time.
That's very true.
So Mr. Charlie Mayhem again has a second question, and that's, will the PC version contain anything special or extra for us old schoolers who played the originals on PC?
That's a great question. One of the bonuses we have planned for the initial release of the game is what we're calling our Elite Soldier Pack. It contains a very distinctive hairstyle that if you were a fan of the original game, you will recognize immediately. It will beguile you.
All right. Thank you for going there. Zulciness has a second question in this batch, which is, okay, this is a little bit of a silly one. Who would win in a fight between Sid Meier, a sectoid, and the Hulk?
That's a great question, and I think to answer it, we have to look at the strengths that each one of them are going to win. Clearly, between a Hulk and a sectoid, the Hulk has the advantage of the physical strength. Most sectoids, you'd say, okay, sectoid is tough. He might be able to use psychic powers. But again, this is a question, is this a box standard sectoid or sectoid commander? That's going to vary on the degree of psychic strength. So let's say sectoid commander, in which case it's kind of a wash. Well, now you have to factor Sid in the equation. This is actually relatively easy because Sid wins on everything.
Nice and simple. All right, and then the last question for this batch here is the demo that we are showing at the show here. When will they get to see it?
And I see that's from our buddy Taz from the forum. We're going to try to get that up as soon as we can for you. We'll talk to the guys here at 2K, talk to Greg and community, get a nice solid version for you guys to take a look at. We've shown a little bit of it. We showed a slightly abbreviated version earlier.
Which you can see in the replay if you look at yesterday's coverage. A little hard to find because we haven't highlighted it yet, but it is there. You could jump back to yesterday morning and try to find that.
Definitely check it out from yesterday. And we've got the River Valley demo as well that you guys can watch in the meantime. And I believe the next show we're going to be at physically will be Gamescom in Germany.
Ah, yes. So if you're overseas, you will get to check it out there.
What is going on here? What is happening? I'm shocked. Great. I get to go to I'm going to go to the convention center with this on my head. What is going on here?
Thank you.
Insane.
How'd you like that, Ronnie? All the XCOM lovely ladies.
You can meet the lovely ladies, which unfortunately I got the great pleasure to meet just now. Wow. You guys got to come by our booth and see them.
You do. They are awesome.
They're taking pictures
They're
of
such
me
great
with
sports.